You're probably tempted to call these sandals, but they're actually a military boot called Caligai. The reason I call them boots is they wrap around my ankle, because if you're wearing, say, your shoes, if you're walking through a marsh, what would be, what would be a concern of yours? That you step in a really muddy puddle and you pull your foot up, and because that's not tied around your ankle,
Sucked right off.
yeah, it gets sucked right off. Roman soldiers were expected to march up to 18 miles a day, so they had a pretty comfortable footwear. It's also very open, because if I am marching through a bog or a marsh or just after a heavy rain, you don't want to get trench foot or gangrene. These dry very fast. There's been times in which I've stepped in a puddle with them and they've gotten rather wet, and but they do dry very fast. They also have spikes at the bottom, which give me excellent traction, especially in muddy terrain. Moving upwards, this is my belt, called a, should be good. Thank you though. Called a Baltius. It was just a military belt. It didn't have any significance armor-wise, but it was a status symbol. It said, "I'm a soldier," and it was so important to the soldiers that have this status symbol that a punishment for minor offenses might be standing at guard duty without a belt and without armor, which would mean that your tunic would hang to your ankles, which was kind of like wearing a dunce cap. Only Roman soldiers wore their tunics above their ankles. Mine's a little bit lower than it should be. It's sagged down a little bit, so you have to forgive me, but typically it would be just above my knees. Moving up even further, I have my cuirass. This is called a Lorica segmentata. It is a very well engineered chest armor. Gives me actually great mobility. In fact, I can almost touch my toes. So it moves and flexes with me as I move, which is very important for battle, that you do have some mobility. My sword, notice how I draw it. It's on my right hip and not on my left. Because if I did draw it with my left, I'm carrying this shield. I might actually end up cutting myself. But later on during the medieval period, where they had longer swords and no shields, they always did wear it on the left. It's short. This is the Pompey style gladius, and its primary purpose was a stabbing weapon. So stabbing and thrusting like this doesn't really take a whole lot of effort. It's not very tiring, and the Romans, found out that you really only need a 2-inch deep wound to put an enemy combatant out of battle. Might not kill him right away, but a 2-inch deep wound into your gut or your chest is going to put you out of battle.
Wow.
And because that doesn't require a lot of energy, the Romans can, thrust and stab all day. Or suppose if they're waving their sword around and hacking and slashing, well, one, that gets very tiring, but two, it also exposes my underarm, which is one of the few areas of me that's not very well armored. The other part of me that's not very well armored, what would you guess? My legs. I don't have any armor on my legs. That's because the Romans, although sometimes they would wear greaves, they were more concerned with mobility. And also having this big shield. The idea is that it would cover my legs anyways, negating the need of having mobility. And mind you, if an enemy soldier was going to try and use a spear or a sword and try and stab low, I'm going to be coming at him at the same time. If he swings up this shield, it's rounded, so it wraps around my body, giving me excellent coverage. It's made out of plywood. The Romans invented plywood a little bit different than we know it today, but same concept, thin strips of wood put together, glued together for added strength. So it is rather light, and I can move it around quite a bit. Even lock and stab. If you want to see how much it weighs, ways, you're welcome to it. Right? And then,
So original material would have been plywood.
yeah.
Or it's
It
layered.
was, you know,
laminate.
they didn't have quite the same construction, the same industrial presses that we have today.
Right, but not brass
the
or
same
bronze
wood,
or anything.
thin strips of wood going alternate ways. You know, one layer going up and down, the next layer going side to side, and another layer going up and down again.
Cool.
So 3 layers for added strength. Brass edging for strength. I have the embossed boss right here, just for hand protection, just so the enemy wouldn't be able just to, just figure out where my hand was, just stab right through it. The emblem of my shield would just indicate my legion or unit. So in the chaos of battle, if I got separated for whatever reason, I can look around, and if I know that certain units have, you know, certain units of a legion, which would be, a legion was about 5,000 men, you know, had certain emblems, I could kind of figure out where I was supposed to be. You notice on my helmet, it opens up around my eyes, it opens up around my mouth, and on my ears. So I have excellent vision, hearing, and the ability to speak if I have to give commands and such. It's also has this brow guard right above me, because if an enemy soldier goes to strike, it would ideally absorb most of the blow and distribute the power of it, as opposed to just a singular strike in just one specific spot. Another nifty invention is, you'll notice I have this neck guard here, and it is designed to overlap in the gaps of the top of my armor. And also, if an enemy, you know, goes the strike at my neck, your kind of natural reaction is to kind of flinch, turn and flinch, and ideally the neck guard should overlap with my armor enough to prevent me from being decapitated. On my hand, I just wear a simple ring. This is just of the Roman Emperor, just for either good luck or just as a status symbol. Any questions? I know some of you came a little bit later to my talk, so please, I encourage any discussion or questions you have.
Does anything on your uniform display your rank or your place in your unit?
Aside from the shield, it was all the other soldiers would be more or less dressed pretty much like I am. With some variation, their helmet might be a slightly different style, you know, cheek guards and such. The armor might have different brass decorations on it, or their belts were certainly all different. Might feature different gods or different emperors on it. And the Romans were known to customize their armor, put gold and silver on their belts, kind of as a status symbol, and you know, pretty much just kind of for decoration, kind of like how we do today. Anything else?
One more question. Some of the other units were saying, like the Civil War guys were totally responsible for financing their own weapon, their own uniform and stuff. Would that have been the same in that era?
Yeah, the Roman soldiers were one of the first professional armies. So my armor at best would be subsidized, but it would be my personal responsibility to buy it and to maintain it, which gave me a great incentive to take care of it, because if I lost it or it rusted out, it's my job to buy a new helmet or a new cuirass, not the government's. So I can't just say, hey, I lost my sword. You know, they say, hey, well, okay, well, it's going to be 500 denarii.
Right.
And that's, you know, a good chunk of my paycheck, so.
Tell them how long you enlisted for?
Typical enlistment was 25 years active duty, 5 years reserve. Of that time, soldiers were not allowed to marry. However, this didn't stop most soldiers, because not many people who enlist when they're 20, 25 want to, start a family, at 50. So They would have unofficial wives like so. And it was often overlooked by the officers because they found out that the sons of Roman soldiers made excellent soldiers themselves because their fathers could teach them everything they know from a young age. I don't know did I go over the javelin? Called a pilum. You'll notice it has a pyramid tip. And the idea of this is to throw it as a battle begins and to ensnare it on an enemy shield because it has the pyramid tip. It goes in easy, but it doesn't come out easy. Kind of the same concept of a fish hook. Easy for them to bite down onto it, not easy for them to free themselves from it. With the hopes that the enemy, who in mid-charge wouldn't just stop what they're doing and try and yank a 7-foot spear out of their shield. They just drop it and keep charging anyways, which works out well for the Romans because less shield and armor than the enemy has, the better for us. The people that the Roman fought, the barbarians, the Celts, the Germans, they, at best, some of the richest ones might have chainmail, they might have a helmet. Other than that, they didn't have any sort of, they weren't professional soldiers like myself. So they just, whatever, if they were farmers and, happen to have a scythe or so, that's what they would use. They typically didn't have armor, and if they did, it certainly wasn't as advanced for, like, my own, which is what made the Romans, part of what made the Romans so effective. The armor is very well engineered, gives me excellent mobility, I can really move around in it. But also Roman discipline was legendary. So the Romans, the officers wanted the soldiers to be more afraid. They wanted the soldiers to be more afraid of the officers than the enemy themselves. Because if, for example, a punishment the Romans invented was called decimation, which we understand to be something that's destroyed. A unit that would show cowardice in battle might get the punishment decimation, and which would be 1 in every 10 men was selected to be beaten to death by their fellow soldiers. It happened with Pompey the Great and Julius Caesar ordered, a particular unit or legion to be decimated, and in the following battle, they didn't retreat unless they were ordered to.